Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Sam Feldman, and I'm the Senior Vice President at Arthur J. Gallagher, Canada, broadcasting here from Toronto. We're very excited you could join us here today for today's presentation, Protecting Our People and Places, to talk about security for Jewish synagogues, schools, organizations, and businesses, a topic that is so important to our community today. Before I begin, I'm going to hand over to Adina from Napkin Marketing to go through a few technical tips for those of you who are now new to webinars, so you can watch this properly and get the most out of the session.
Hi, everyone. So just a few tips for some of you who are new to webinars. On your screen, you're probably seeing either myself or Sam right on your screen on your browser. And to the right of us, you're seeing a chat window. So if you can hear us and see us, if you don't mind typing something in the chat, maybe everyone can type where they're tuning in from today, what city you're tuning in from, just so we can make sure everything's working for you guys. And while you're doing that, another thing you'll notice on a webinar is there's a 7-second delay. So one thing you'll notice, okay, perfect. I'm seeing where everyone's tuning in from. We've actually got about 70 people on the line today, so it's really exciting. I see Esther from Toronto, Mark from Mississauga, Cassandra from Calgary, got Concord, Winnipeg. Awesome. So while you're doing that, I just want to mention there is a 7-second delay from the time you type into the chat to the time we actually see the chat, just an internet transmission, Google Hangouts thing. Another thing you might notice is sometimes your screen will look a little fuzzy. The slides may look a little blurry. What you'll want to do is refresh your browser, and that usually helps with the broadcast quality as well. And we have a pretty tight agenda today. We have many speakers. We're going to try to do a Q&A throughout the session. If we run out of time, we might actually save up the questions for a longer Q&A. But what you can do on that chat is you can type in your questions, and you're going to see Michael on the chat. Michael's our moderator. And whenever Michael sees your questions, he's going to pin them and he's going to save them for the speakers to address later. So feel free to type in your chat as you go along. And if we don't get to address it right away, we'll definitely try to address it at the ending Q&A. So we're looking forward to having you join us and have this be a participative discussion with that chat.
Excellent. Thanks, Adina. And thank you, everyone, for coming. I'm going to start off with a bit of an introduction to those of you who aren't familiar with Arthur J. Gallagher. We're a global leader in insurance brokerage and risk management services with over 22,000 employees spanning across 140 countries. Our client base is diverse across industry, business, and nonprofit sectors, and of course, Jewish faith institutions. Arthur J. Gallagher has been working with and supporting faith and nonprofit groups since its inception in Chicago in 1927. I am based out of the Calgary office. A bit about myself and my Jewish background is that I've been extensively involved in Calgary's local Jewish community over the past 2 decades, with my most recent duties as the chair of the Calgary UJA annual fundraising campaign. So what brings us here today for today's discussion? on Jewish security. I work with numerous Jewish organizations and Jewish community leaders, and every day in doing so, I often hear my clients' fears and concerns about security. Just like you and I, they're worried about the attacks they are seeing happening around the world and increasingly are getting closer to home. They're worried about anti-Semitic violence happening at their temples, their schools, camps, and businesses. They're worried about the global wave of terror making its way into yours and my community. Today, we're fortunate enough to have some of Canada's leading experts with us, Nir Maman and Max Hazini. Well, you will be hearing from both. They're both former senior Israeli military officers and have been trained security forces in the US, Canada, Europe, and Africa. We also have some in-house expertise here from Vishal Kundi, our Chief Sales and Marketing Officer from our Canadian office, and Justin Priestley and Paul Bassett, two of our crisis management experts based in London. The first person I'd like to introduce is Nir Maman. Nir is an elite anti-terrorism trainer and law enforcement officer who has trained security forces all over the world, including the FBI and Homeland Security in the States. Among other things, Nir is a specialist in a form of Israeli martial arts called Krav Maga. It's no wonder that Nir has been called the Jewish Terminator. He's going to be sharing with us a big picture of the threats of Jewish communities around the world and how we can start addressing them. Nir?
Sam, thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for being here with us today. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you and to share my knowledge and experience with you, and hopefully give you some tools and resources, information to help make your community safer. We have a very broad subject that we are going to try to cover in this platform, and a very small amount of time to be able to fit it all in. So what I'm going to try to focus on is to help give people a much more in-depth and thorough understanding of the threats that are much more concerning to us today, and a general overview of the platform that's required to implement a proper operating security system to keeping our people and our places safe. So let's get started. I want to first of all, again, get people to wrap their heads around the threat. People, when we talk about the different types of threats, whether it's acts of criminality, whether it's terrorism, they have very limited or very generic understanding of what the magnitude of the consequences are. And I want us to try to get a very clear and in-depth understanding of what these consequences can be, because without understanding the full magnitude of the threats, we will not allow ourselves to develop a proper During that time, Israel had suffered 27,905 terrorist attacks. Out of those, 1,116 Israelis were killed and 8,800 were injured. This is in the span of 6 years. Pause for a second and talk about the injured people. You understand, obviously, the consequences of people getting killed, but 8,800 people injured. These injuries, to the most part, are injuries that people don't recover from.
Yeah, we have a technical problem, so we might have to just backtrack 2 minutes. No, just 1 minute. Hi guys, sorry we've had a bit of a technical problem. We're back on the webinar. If you can just refresh your browser and Yeah, I think we dropped our sound for about 30 seconds. If you guys can tell us in the chat if you can see us again, if you can see Nir on your screen again. Tell us if you can see Nir on your screen. Okay, and we're going to go back to our presentation. And tell us if you can see the presentation on your screen. Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
So if you want to go back to the Second Intifada.
Okay, no problem. Sorry about that, folks. So as I was saying, the Second Intifada, 2000-2006, period of 6 years, we had 27,905 terror attacks in Israel. Out of those attacks, we had 1,116 Israelis that were killed, 8,800 that were injured. Let's quickly take a look for a second at the injured numbers that are always exponentially greater when we talk about attacks and we see what happens. It's important that people understand, so that we understand the consequences of what terrorism causes, that the majority of these injuries are injuries that people don't recover from, physically, emotionally, and mentally. That is the ripple effect, the long-lasting ripple effect that terror attacks have. Another important point to understand here is a point of interest. Out of the almost 28,000 terror attacks that we had, 151 of them were suicide bombings. About 0.5% of all the attacks were suicide bombings. 540 Israelis were killed by suicide bombings. About 0.5% of the attacks caused 50% of the casualties. We had the third Intifada, which started in September of 2015 and is still ongoing today. So far, 34 people have been killed in these terror attacks and 400 injured. There have been 206 stabbing attacks, including 66 attempted attacks, 83 shooting attacks, and 42 vehicular ramming attacks. Total casualty rate, 1,150, and 9,200 injured. Let's go to the United States for a sec. Since 1973 until February 11th of 2016, which was the last attack, there have been 38 Islamic extremist terror attacks in the United States. Total casualty rate, 3,282 killed, 9,285 injured. Canada. Since December of 1999, there have been 4+ to carry out major attacks in Canada. 3 of them were actually perpetrated. Casualty rate, 2 killed, 3 injured. Let's look at the type of threats, or sorry, the type of targets that exist out there. We have 2 types. The first is what we refer to as a hard target. A potential target, a person or a location that has effective measures in place to A, detect a potential or intended attack by a hostile group or individuals, B, prevent an attack from succeeding or even taking place, and C, respond to an attempted attack and drastically hinder or stop its capabilities. These are the best types of targets for us, obviously, because it's highly unlikely they're going to get attacked. Second type that we have are soft targets. A potential target, again, a person or a location that has either no measures in place to detect, prevent, or respond to an attack, or has a false sense of security measure in place, which essentially equates to no measures in place. This, unfortunately, even today, with everything that's going on in the world, is what we see a lot of when we do assessments on locations. They have measures in place that are very superficial, and that by perception will give people the idea and the notion that they're safe and secure, but in reality, there's no functional security elements in place. I'm gonna give you guys a quick little personal example. I have one of my kids who goes to a school here in the GTA. I'm not going to get specific location or names. If I was to go in there today and conduct a threat assessment, they would fail. They have one element that they rely on heavily, which is an entry system, a biometric entry system, where parents get their fingerprint registered, and then to enter the place, you come in, you put your finger on the biometric system, and it allows you access. And what I'll tell you right now is that in probably over 80% of all my visits to this school, whether it was dropping my child off or picking my child up, I have never had to use that entry system. There was always people I can piggyback off that are going in, or people coming out, okay? So we have here, again, a mechanism in place that serves no purpose. It's a window dressing measure, a false sense of security measure, okay? And that's what we mean by false sense of security. Let's quickly look at the type of threats that a soft target may encounter and understand them. We have, starting at the lower end, the passive end, of the spectrum and progressing to the most detrimental types of threats. Vandalism, theft, sabotage, robbery, assault. Let's pause for a sec and look at the effects that they have. Financial loss, disruption of business to the institution, disruption of service to the membership base, loss of reputation to the business, leaving a profound feeling of stress and violation, and causing a fear of people to return back to that place, whether it's students returning back to a school, whether it's customers returning back to the place of service, whether it's employees returning back to work. The last two that we have on the spectrum here are active shooter attacks and then various acts of terrorism. The effects of those are everything that we just listed above, plus the loss of life, which is obviously the worst thing that you can ever experience. Soft targets can easily fall prey to what we call deceptive hostile actions. So example, fire alarm bait. Look at two examples here. The first one was a shooting scenario that happened in the United States, specifically in Craighead County, Arkansas, March 24th, 1998. Westside Middle School. Two young offenders, Mitchell Scott Johnson, age 14, Andrew Douglas Golden, age 12, stole firearms from one of their grandparents and decided to enact a shooting on the school. One of these individuals went and hid on the periphery of the school with rifles ready to shoot. The other one went to the school, pulled the fire alarm, causing a fire emergency response protocol, evacuating the whole school. And when all of the students and the teachers exited and waited in their designated safe area, the two offenders opened fire on the crowd. They killed 5 and they injured 10. One of the most popular bait scenarios that we see with firearms used are custody battles, where you have a parent who decides to circumvent the legal process and maybe abduct their own kids to take off from the country. And one of the things that they will do is they will go to the school, pull the fire alarm. They understand what the protocols are going to be. All the kids are going to be funneled out. At that point, they'll find their kids, scoop their kids up, and take off. So people have this separation between the different type of responses, emergency responses. There's fire drills, fire protocols, but they don't coincide them with the emerging threat of ill-intended acts. And it's important to have a system in place that allows you to properly prepare for both of them, or one or the other together. Top targets for terrorism today: schools, specifically children. This is by the mandate and the charter of today's terror groups, from Al-Qaeda to Hamas to ISIS, where they have specifically called for the attacks on our children because they know that is going to have the most detrimental of consequences to our society. Shopping malls, transit systems, places of worship, and major public events. We're going to look right now at just a couple examples of some hostile scenarios that we may encounter, 3 specific ones. First one is what we term a hostile surveillance operation. This is an action that precedes the majority of all terror attacks and many criminal acts. The objective is to gather as much information or intelligence on a potential target to learn all its vulnerabilities, security capabilities, emergency response capabilities, and most importantly, when the most optimal time is to deploy the attack that will ensure its success. Hostile surveillance may be carried out by the same individual or individuals that will carry out the attack, or by co-conspirators who will not be involved in the actual attack itself. Perpetrators may carry out surveillance on a target for days, weeks, or even months. They will most likely explore the target site after hours when there are no people around, allowing them to roam freely and uninterrupted, observing and making notes of elements such as the physical structure, the doors, locks, surveillance cameras, alarm panels, angles of approach, and many other elements. They will also, guaranteed, visit the target site during regular operating hours to observe firsthand the real-time operations. This includes the movement of people, actions and reactions to staff, security protocols, validity of the security measures in place. Is it real effective security, or is it just window dressing or false sense of security measures that we talked about? The best time to deploy the attack to ensure they are uninterrupted and can achieve the objective successfully. The perpetrators will attempt to observe the target from the inside. They will accomplish this by creating a false pretense to gain entry into the facility or the venue. Examples might be that they may ask for a tour as a point of interest of pretending to want to become members of your facility. And this will allow them obviously to take a look at the entire facility from the inside. come in and ask to use the washrooms or telephones, or come in and simply ask for directions to another location. The false pretense entry will also provide the perpetrators an opportunity to get close and in contact with the entry system of the target to assess the level of difficulty in gaining entry to the target on the day of the attack. They will have various forms of information recording means with them, ranging from pen and notebook to various platforms of electronic recording devices. With the advent of technology today, you're not going to see camcorders and cameras in the traditional sense. You'll have cell phones. There are many gadgets on the market today that have very good recording capabilities that you will not know are recording devices. And this is what terrorists use to accomplish their information gathering phase. Alternate means of gathering information may include approaching members, patrons, staff, students, etc. of the facility and asking questions of the operations in the facility, or by calling the facility via telephone and asking questions. They may even go online if you have a website and begin there and get as much information from your website. So it's also important to make sure that you're careful with the amount of information that you're putting out on your websites. You have resources out there such as Google Earth today, which is a satellite view that gives access to anybody with a computer to learning the entire geography of your facility inside and out, and in many cases, the actual structure as well. The hostile surveillance phase is the most crucial phase of the attack for both the terrorists and the potential target. For the terrorists, it requires a lot of work and resources. The more successful the information gathering phase on the target, the more successful the attack will be. For the target, it's the equivalent of an ill-intended person coming up to you and telling you that they are going to attack you very soon. These people will be in your presence, and if you know what to look out for, you'll be able to detect the hostile surveillance operation and most likely be able to thwart the attack and save lives. Very quick little example I want to give you guys. James Woods, famous Hollywood actor, I'm sure everybody knows. Not many people know this story. It has to do with the attacks of 9/11. There's an interview that James Woods gives with ABC News. It's available online. I suggest everybody goes and just Google search James Woods 9/11 attacks and it'll come up. In very, very brief, 1 month before 9/11, he was on a flight from Boston to Los Angeles in first class. There were 4 individuals that boarded the first class cabin and sat down, and James Woods right away had a very bad feeling about them. In his words, as he said, through observing them, in his opinion, they were either undercover police officers or they were terrorists about to take over the plane, conduct a hijacking. He was able to detect a lot of attributes and a lot of actions that they were doing that led him to the suspicion. He asked to speak with the pilot. The pilot came out. He conveyed his concern to them, to the pilot. The pilot looked over, saw the 4 individuals, and corroborated Mr. Woods' concern. An official report was put in with the FAA. 9/11 happened. The FBI contacted James Woods and interrogated him further on the incident. As it turned out, 2 out of the 4 individuals who Mr. Woods suspected were terrorists were 2 actual terrorists that conducted the 9/11 attacks. This is an individual who is not trained in security. He was able to observe in his environment these threats. Quickly elaborate on that as well. You know what you're doing, you're going to identify them. Almost every single act of terrorism is preceded by a lengthy intelligence gathering phase. We move on right now to a second concerning threat that we have that exists in the world of terrorism today. The layman term is car or truck bomb. The official term is a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device, or a VBED. This is an improvised explosive device placed inside a vehicle that can be driven to a target and then detonated. The benefits for terrorists to use VBEDs are that a car or truck can have an explosive load of up to 7,000 pounds hidden inside it. The vehicle, which is the delivery mechanism of the explosive, can maneuver around without attracting suspicion. The vehicle can be parked anywhere on or around the target property and then detonated remotely or by timer, or it can be used as a suicide terror weapon and driven right into the target and detonate upon impact. Look at 2 very quick examples so we understand again the magnitude of what these car bombs can have. The very first attack on the World Trade Center was the World Trade Center bombing, February 26, 1993. A van with 1,336 pounds of explosives was parked in the underground parking lot of the first tower. The plan was to detonate it, have that first tower collapse onto the second tower, taking down both the towers, killing thousands of people. Fortunately, it didn't go as planned. The explosion went off, didn't take down any of the towers, but it did kill 6 people and injured more than 1,000. Incidentally, the individual that carried out that led the World Trade Center bombings was the uncle of one of the masterminds of the 9/11 attacks. Oklahoma City bombing. I'm sure everybody remembers this one here, April 19th, 1995. The Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City was a federal building that housed 6 government offices ranging from law enforcement to the IRS. It also had on the second floor a day school for children. One truck with 4,800 pounds of explosive mixture detonated right in front of the building. 168 people were dead, 680 people injured. It destroyed 1/3 of the 9-story building, and it damaged 324 other buildings in a 16-block radius. Let that sink in for a sec. I'm sure that right now, if all of you step outside or envision your facility, your property, you can see very easily that a truck, not a truck, a car, can definitely drive onto your facility, park itself within an immediate radius, and detonate. We're talking here about enough explosives to affect over 300 buildings in a 16-block radius. Imagine what would happen if that car bomb was parked anywhere near your facility or on your property. Third scenario we're going to look at here is an active shooter. Very, very prevalent, and it has been. These active shooter attacks have been going on in North America for a long time, but now they're gaining a lot of traction in the media because of their prevalence, and because today we also have a lot of terror acts that are active shooter attacks. What is an active shooter? It's a threat who enters a soft target and methodically and systematically hunts down and executes innocent people. The threat can be a mentally ill individual or a terrorist. The objective is to kill as many innocent people. That is it. Nothing less, nothing more. The difference between a mentally ill active shooter and a terrorist. Mentally ill active shooters usually kill themselves before the police arrive, or when police arrive, they end up surrendering. Terrorists will not stop killing until they are killed. That's their protocol. That's what they train for. They prepare for it with equipment, with strategies, and with the intelligence that they have gathered on the facility before they execute the attack. In the majority of the cases, they will not stop killing until they are stopped physically. In some cases, they will attempt to escape, or they will escape because they will have other attacks to carry out at later times. The problem we face today, the trend, is with the prevalence of the amount of terrorism that goes on in the world today, more and more of these attacks, terrorist active shooter-oriented attacks, are being carried out by multiple terrorists, meaning multiple terrorists in one attack event. There are more terrorists in our presence than people realize. There are exponentially more what's referred to as radicalized or homegrown terrorists in our communities. There's an estimated 40 to 50,000 foreign fighters who have joined rebel or terrorist organizations in various war zones around the world since 2011. They've been indoctrinated with the jihad cause, and they're all now, many of them are repatriating back to their Western countries to carry out their missions. Incidentally, about 80 so far have been identified by Canadian authorities as being Canadian rebel fighters. What's a very interesting point of irony that we look at here today? Every single public or residential place in North America must comply with fire code safety regulations. This means visual and audio fire alarms, smoke detectors, emergency exits, sprinkler systems, fire extinguishers, fire hoses, posted fire emergency protocols, accessible communication systems, and much more. This is the law. However, to date, there has been an exponentially greater amount of people that have been killed in active shooter attacks across North America than there have been people killed by fires in public places. Yet there are no laws in place to govern safety protocols to keep people safe and alive from active shooter attacks. So how do we protect our people and our places? Today, the responsibility to keeping our society safe is everyone's. It's not just the government's, it's everyone's. The responsibility to keeping your facility and your people safe is yours. To ensure optimal safety, your facility, the security protocol you have in place must allow you to implement what we refer to as the 5 Ds. The first one is deter. When you have a proper, real, and effective security platform in place that integrates both human and technology elements, you will visibly be a harder target. Potential attackers will know immediately that it will be next to impossible to successfully infiltrate your facility and carry out a successful attack. Security must combine people, which are properly trained professionals, and security technology. Each one of these elements on their own has limitations, but when combined properly, they remedy each other's limitations and drastically optimize the entire security and response capability. An effective security platform in place will more than likely persuade a potential attacker to move on to another, more viable and easier target. Next is detect. As discussed previously, almost every single intended hostile act against a facility will be preceded by a hostile surveillance operation phase. This phase is your opportunity to detect the problem before it can evolve and take immediate action, saving lives in your facility and lives in other potential targets. The ability to effectively detect covert ill intentions in your environment comes again from integration of effective human and technology security capabilities. I want to very quickly look at this picture. I'll present to you guys a quick little, another personal story here. This is the central bus station in Jerusalem. So I took these pictures. This was back in about 2008 when I was still in the military in Israel. I was on my way to a meeting. I took the public transport, got off the bus, and as I crossed the street from the bus station, I turned back and took a look. And there's a big lineup. At first glance, if you look at the scenario here, you would think that you're going through some kind of an international airport. There are walk-through weapon and metal detectors everywhere, conveyor belts for explosive devices, armed security personnel, screeners, physical barriers. It looks like an airport, not a bus station. Now, I stopped and I took these pictures because one of my duties in the Army was to train a lot of all the foreign units that would be sent to us before they deployed to hostile war zones. And I wanted to create a presentation that showed firsthand our security mechanisms in place that we have in Israel that allow us to survive against the amount of terrorism that we live with. I didn't do things properly in the sense of that I should have walked over to the security supervisor, identified myself, and told them that I was going to be taking some pictures. I was, mind you, in full military uniform. I had my military patches and my pins. I had my sidearm with me. I pulled my camera out. I snapped about 3 or 4 pictures. Before I put my camera down, I was surrounded by 4 undercover security agents from the Transportation Authority. And I'm an Israeli soldier, in full Israeli military uniform, middle of the daylight, and I get stopped by security inquiring why I'm taking pictures of the facility. I gave them my identification, explained to them what I was doing and why. They checked everything out, everything was fine. The supervisor did tell me that, you know, I should have come and spoken to them first, obviously, to remedy the problem. In North America, I can assure you that if a terrorist was out there taking pictures, nobody would potentially today still give a second glance at that, because people are still not indoctrinated into that way of thinking and of living, of being proactive and keeping security as the foremost concern and seeing who's out there and what their intentions are. So this is a very interesting story just to help people understand. The third D that we have is deny. If a terror group or ill-intended individual is determined to make you a target, you will not be able to deter them. The deny layer is your physical barrier to prevent the perpetrators from physically gaining entry to your facility and accessing your people. Physical barriers are walls, doors, windows, alternate entry points such as air systems or vents, and security professionals, people. The obvious goal of entry denial is to ensure that the perpetrators do not gain access to your facility or people. However, in addition, what it will also serve is to, number one, expose the perpetrator's intent. Imagine for a second somebody who wants to carry out an attack on your facility. They come to the door, they try to open the door. They are there with a mission, they're prepared for it, they're armed, and they have made it their point that day to come out and turn you into a victim. They can't get in. They'll probably try to knock on the door. They might be a little bit more aggressive with pulling the door. If you send them away, and it's a normal person, not a terrorist, not somebody who's there to conduct any ill-intended act, the response will be very obvious. They will probably either try to reasonably communicate with you, and once they get, no, you can't come in, they will probably leave. However, a person who is frustrated with getting into your facility and who is there to conduct an ill-intended act, no matter what it is, how passive or aggressive, the frustration will probably come out, and they'll be adamant on still trying to get right through the barrier there. So it'll probably expose themselves to you as to who they are and what they're there for. It'll provide you with the necessary amount of time that you need to take action, such as calling 911, deploying security and defensive measures, or initiating emergency protocols such as lockdown procedures. The next D that we have is delay. Where there's a will, there's usually a way. You may have a very substantial denial platform in place, but you must be prepared for the possibility of the perpetrators being able to circumvent your entry denial system and physically gaining entry into your facility. I'll take the example of, again, my child's school. It has maglocks on the door, biometric entry system, but again, over 80% of the time that I've ever been in that place, I never had to use it. So there's always a possibility for somebody to be able to circumvent your denial system and be able to get into your facility. We're talking right now about an active shooter situation, okay? And I want to give you guys again, a little dose of reality and understanding, okay? Because a lot of people think that help is just a phone call away, and it is, but doesn't mean that help is going to arrive right there when you call. I want to introduce you guys to the realities of a police response to an active shooter event. Here in North America, the typical police response to an emergency is on average 5 to 7 minutes. Ironically, in an active shooter incident, the response may actually be longer, mostly due to mandated response protocol. For active shooter incidents, police are required to wait until there are at least 2 to 4 officers on scene before they're allowed to enter. Almost every single police service in the Greater Toronto area operates single officer vehicles, meaning 1 police officer per vehicle. Okay, so now you have to wait for 2 to 4 vehicles to show up. Once a sufficient amount of officers are on scene, they may have to access specialized equipment from the vehicle, such as assault rifles. They will then have to group up into their formation, quickly decide on a plan of action, identify the direction of travel and entry if it's not that clear to them. They will then proceed in a fast walking pace. They're not going to run. It's not the way the tactics work here in North America. They're going to walk to the entry point of your facility. The time it takes them to reach the entry point might be short, it might be long, all depends obviously on the geography of your facility or any obstacles that they may encounter along the way. All of this can add an additional approximately 1 to 3 minutes on top of the average response time. So we're looking at about 6 to 10 minutes of response time for the police to arrive after you call 911, after you call 911, okay, or they've been alerted, which means that the threat is already in your environment and has already began to enact their actions. It takes an active shooter an average of 12 to 15 seconds per room to enact their actions, meaning to enter a room, kill people, and then move on to the next room, about 12 to 15 seconds per room. If we take 30 rooms as an example, we have approximately 450 seconds, which is approximately 7.5 minutes. The active shooter will be moving from room to room in a rapid pace. It will take approximately 3 to 5 seconds to reach each room. So approximately 150 seconds for 30 rooms at 5 seconds per room. For 30 rooms, the active shooter will have approximately 10 minutes of free time to systematically walk around and murder people. If there are 2 attackers, they can potentially cover all that ground in half the time. As per the FBI national statistics, the majority of victims in an active shooter incident are killed within the first 10 minutes. The police response, again, to an active shooter incident is about 6 to 10 minutes. The delay layer must buy your people at least a good 6 to 10 minutes of a barrier from the threat. This will help keep approximately 80 to 90% of your people alive instead of 20 to 30%. The final D that we have is defeat. The fact of the matter is that an active shooter is only there to kill people. The conventional North American model used to emphasize for potential victims to hide under desks, barricade themselves inside rooms, and do nothing else. Essentially, be sitting ducks. Today, everyone finally understands that the only 2 options you have in an active shooter scenario is to, 1, either sit and wait to die, or 2, take immediate and offensive action, because that is the only thing that saves lives. In Israel, this is what we have been doing for over 30 years. We are the only country in the world that has been facing the amount of terrorism that exists out there, targeting our civilians, and we understand what keeps people alive. And what keeps people alive is arming everybody from kids to the average person on how to recognize threats and how to fight back. And this is the Israeli model that we have been enacting for the past 30 years that has been keeping people alive. The new FBI model as of the last 3-4 years, has finally started to switch gears in that mentality where they began to understand people have to do something. They can't sit and wait for the police to arrive, because police will arrive, again, 6 to 10 minutes. The new model emphasizes 3 elements: run, hide, fight. An active shooter enters your facility. If you can get out of there and take people with you, obviously get out of there. Don't add to the list of casualties. If you can't escape for whatever reason, hide, barricade yourself. There are specific ways that we train people to barricade themselves, that we train facilities to harden individual rooms inside the macro facility, the overall facility, to allow people enough safe sanctuaries that they can run to, barricade themselves, and have tools in there to keep themselves safe for that, again, 6 or 10 minutes. And the last one is to fight. If an active shooter manages to defeat your physical barriers and get into your group of people, you have to fight. The irony is that in active shooter scenarios, even if it's one shooter, they walk into a classroom or any type of room where you have 5, 10, 15, 20 people. One shooter alone cannot take on that many people. The problem is that nobody knows what to do and how to do it. And because of that, they also lack the courage and the instinct to be able to fight. But if everybody is trained properly, they have the right tools, you will have casualties. Understand that with an active shooter attack, there's no such thing as 0 casualties unless you prevent them from coming into your facility. But the casualty rate, again, is going to be exponentially lower. In conclusion, today we live in a world where evil exists. We may choose to close our eyes and not see it, but that doesn't mean it won't see us. Security is like an insurance policy. It's something that we purchase, we have, we pay for. We don't like the fact that we have to pay for it and have it, but we have it and hope that we never need to use it. The worst thing that can happen is need it and not have it. The fact is that the cost of preventing a disaster is always, always, always less than the cost of dealing with the consequences. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nir. It's very important that we know the risks that are out there, but also the proactive steps each of us can take to manage the risk. Because, thank God, a major incident has not happened on Canadian soil, it's still too easy to think, what are the chances something's going to happen here, in my shul, in my camp, or in my business? So now we're going to take some questions from the audience on Nir's presentation. Adina?
So feel free to type your questions into the chat. As we wait for some of these questions to come in, I think, Nir, I've got a quick question for you. Obviously, with the run, hide, and fight, how do you? Obviously, super frightening scenario to think about for anyone. What would you advise for a school? How would a school, for example, implement that strategy?
There's no differentiating between what the facility is. The fact is that you have one attacker with one objective. They don't discern whether it's kids, whether it's adults, whether it's seniors. It doesn't make a difference. The model has to be the same. You'd be surprised that even children, if they are trained properly on what to do, they can react effectively. When people know what to do, they don't hesitate. They have a plan, and that will also give them the courage to be able to properly react. What a lot of society fails is in equipping people with the knowledge and the skills, and that is what keeps people in a defensive and scared mode. So for a school, it's the exact same model that we teach as we do to any other type of institution or facility.
We've got a question from Hal. Will any formal training be done in our communities that you know of?
Whereas how from?
I don't know right now.
Okay. Well, I don't know specifically because I don't know how where you're at. But there are a lot of local resources that you can communicate with. You can contact your local police departments and ask them to come in and help build a security protocol. I'll put you guys through some joint training. A lot of police services these days integrate the community into what's required to keep the community safe. We obviously can also help wherever you are. You can contact us and we can put on proper training and protocol development for your facilities?
We've got some more questions coming fast and furious. So Michael will pin some of these for later if we don't get to them all. Simon's got a really good question. What are your suggestions to protect a 750-acre camp with cabins sprawled through forests and thousands of feet of waterfront access with really unlimited land access?
So no questions, the bigger your jurisdiction, your property, your facility is, the more work you have and the more difficult it is. We work with rings or layers. Okay, this is our key to success in Israel. All right, so I'm going to take an example. Let's look at the airports. The airports here in North America, well, quite frankly, everywhere around the world, minus Israel, a threat can get onto the airport property, through the parking lot, through the drop-off zone, into the airport itself, come right up to the security points. They can get right to the heart of where the majority of the targets are in the airport. In Israel, by the time you get about 1.5 kilometers away from the airport, you already encounter the first layer of security. You're already stopped and questioned at that point there. Okay, we have a massive geography, obviously, a lot of traffic flow, but we are able to devise a plan that operates in a ring system. We prioritize what the access points are, what the boundary lines, the properties are, where we have less amount of people, more amount of people. And according to that, we will put rings that will allocate the reasonable amount of resources to be able to deal with everything at every single layer.
Okay, perfect. We've got more questions, but I think we're going to save them for the Q&A for the rest of you if you stick around till the end.
Thanks, Nir. So on to the next. Our next speaker is Max Hazin. As well as being in the military, Max was responsible for security planning for the highest levels of elected governments, officials, and civil servants in Israel. Since coming to Canada, Max has founded Northern Force Security, a private security firm providing guard services and security consulting to the Jewish community and beyond. What he'll be sharing with you today are practical steps you can take to help secure your synagogue or school and how you can prepare for special events. We're looking forward to hearing from you, Max.
Thank you very much, Sam. Okay, so hi everyone. I will be talking today about security, what security in general, and what's important to understand to be able to protect your place or yourself in the best way. So first of all, what is security? Security was preventing hostile consequences from an intentional crime actions, malicious actions of others. In order to prevent, you must understand both the causes of these hostile consequences, the threat, and your vulnerability. You need to understand that you're not safe. You need to change the mode of I'm in Canada and nothing will happen here and it's not going to happen in my place and what's the chances and so and so. Don't put your head in the sand. Understand that something will happen and try to be prepared as much as you can. The key point for me, it's awareness, community awareness, your own awareness. Everyone needs to understand that we as Jewish people, there is a chance that something will happen and we need to be prepared. I'll give you an example. In Israel, a terror attack would last between 30 to 45 seconds. Why is that? Because people and everywhere in the street, from the child to the grandmother, everyone know that something will happen. They're always living in this situation and they will react so fast that 30, 45 seconds and it's done. So that one of the things I want to say here is why I wrote here, you are the best security guard of your facility, because you're the one that know the place better than everyone. You're the one that work there every day. You're the one that's gonna notice to the suspicious bag, to the suspicious item that maybe near your car or to the suspicious car. You know the people in their faces. That way, what I would suggest is it's to take your community, to take the people that work in your synagogue, in your school, and just train them about awareness. What's awareness? They need to understand to change them the thinking about security. Usually, it's you maybe be surprised, but this is what saves a lot of lives. One of the tools that can help you to do it, it's to do a full threat and risk assessment. Of course, the best way will be is to hire a professional to do it in a professional manner, because to learn how to do proper risk assessment can take years and years of experience. But I will give you some key points that you can write down to yourself and try to learn from them. So threat and risk assessment tools precisely identify weakness in system design, structure, and manpower to reduce the risk of someone exploiting the vulnerability. Basically, it's to look at your facility and try to think, how would I break into my facility? How would I try to plan a bomb there? What will be the best way to do it? And this is usually how you find your weakest spots in your facility, and this is how you fix them. The point that you need to fix everything, and to get to the point that you think about, you said, no way I can do something to this place, particular, or your school or your synagogue. So here's an example of some of the questions you can ask, or some of the things you need to look for, like physical health of the organization, the lighting, the alarms, the physical barriers, access points, guards. You can see if the guard look good, trained, if he looks for potential threats, or the guard just sitting and playing on his phone. It's very important. That's what the training of the guard, very important. If you manage a facility, demand from the security company good and well-trained guard. Of course, cameras to see everything and to determine. And all the access methods, make sure you not all the doors to the facility always open, and you have something that you know people can access from one or two doors only. Everyday planning. Everyday planning is something that we do as an Israeli, as a soldiers, as security specialists everywhere. No matter where I go into a new building, I look at the cameras, I look at the exits, I look at the parking lot, on everything. It's just way of living already. So what do you do if you don't have a guard on your site? First of all, of course, do a risk assessment. Then pay attention to surroundings. When you come into your facility, take a look at the parking lot, take a look at the roof, take a look at you don't need to go somewhere. Just stop for a second, take a minute, and just look at the outside from your facility to see if something looks weird or wrong, some car or some person that's standing with a camera writing something, things like this. I would suggest to designate someone, usually is the first person that comes to the building. When he comes to do a security, let's call this patrol, just to take a look at if there is suspicious bags, broken windows, broken doors, something like this, before all the people comes to the facility. You don't want to find this after everyone came to your synagogue and Saturday already. There is a story, something that actually happened to me. One of my clients, I conducted a risk assessment for him and explain him all these points to checking cars, checking suspicious people, and so and so. And the day after, he called me and he said to me, listen, Max, I listened I read your conclusions, and I see a car here that's standing the first parking near my door. Looks suspicious. Of course, we check the car, and the car really looks suspicious, and call the police, and the police find out that the car is a drug dealer car. It's kind of drug dealer station. They move drugs and guns from this car, and it's a school where your kids there. When we check this later, we found out that the car there already 3 months, and just now somebody pay attention to this. So that's why awareness, it's the key word. Pay attention to everything that changed. You don't need to be in panic for things. Just pay attention. It will help you a lot. This is kind of an example that you understand how you, let's say, start your risk assessment. So you start from the street, from far, to closer to your building. Everything needs to be checked. Some things can help you, some things not. Write everything down and make sure you know what's the weakest point in your facility. Here's some link that you can download with the questions that you can ask yourself about your building or synagogue. It will help you a lot. You can download the link here. Now we're going to go for planning for special events. Events are usually crowded by high number of visitors, guests, and support personnel. Criminal and terrorists may attempt to enter your event and cause irreparable damage to attendance. So now it's soon will be the high holidays, Pesach, Yom Kippur, all the high holidays. Everyone knows that it's something that gathering a lot of people there. I like to say for terrorists, it's a candy, a lot of press, a lot of people that will be there. Why not to do a show off, right? So we always need to be prepared for those kind of things, especially in events. So some of the things I would suggest to do is, of course, conduct a full threat and risk assessment. Make sure all your access controls, access and enters and exits, you know them, you're familiar with them. Check that they all work, and if some of them not work, just put a sign, just that people, if something happens, don't run on a closed door that you can open. Emergency response. In the event of an emergency, your guests and staff need to be evacuated in the most efficient manner in order to prevent loss of life or personal injury. Crowd control. I will give you an example from the Bataclan Theater in Paris last year, the big terror attack. So what happened there? The terrorists just came inside the theater and just started to shoot people. None of the management, none of the band management, of course not the crowd, no one know what to do, where to go. People, they like to be directed to somewhere, and people didn't know what to do, especially in such a crazy thing. You don't know what to do, you're losing your mind just standing. A lot of people just freezing. So try to put someone to be in charge of at least telling people where to run, where is the nearest emergency exit, and so. Make sure to design more than one staff member who is aware of emergency response procedure. Just 5-6 people from your staff. Just make sure they know if something happened to call the police. Don't be surprised people forget to call the police. They just think about themselves and they run away. And you find 20 people or kids or disabled people or old people that stuck inside the place with an emergency inside, and no one can help them. So I know it's maybe obvious, but call the police. It's one of the most important things to do. When evacuating crowd from the building, make sure the evacuation area are safe. What I mean, it's when let's say an evacuation, usually people going to the parking, go out and make sure the parking are clear. In Israel, there's a lot of terror attacks that, for example, the Dolphinarium in Tel Aviv, one of the terrorists came inside, blow up a bomb, and another 2 terrorists wait in the parking because they know that everyone's going to wait from there. They took like 15-20 minutes to wait for all the emergency to arrive there and then blow themselves up on all the people and all the emergency. That's why it's very important to check the area, that it's safe and nothing suspicious. And if yes, evacuate the people even farther or to some other place until the police come and close the area. Now we can speak about high holiday events. It's a little bit different than others. The synagogue is a little bit different, but I put some important keywords that you need to think about this. So some of them, it's let's train your staff. Of course, awareness. They need to know that they need to know maybe something will happen. Put roles on people that they train. Pay attention to children care responsibility. It's important. People forget about this. Plan for people with disabilities, like I said before. Find time to stage an evacuation. It's very important. Practice. This is the key word. No practice if something will happen, people will freeze and nothing will happen. Pre-plan announcements. Make sure you have speakers or some kind of radio that you can announce that there is an emergency, because some people are going to be in different rooms, in the toilet and on the basement, and not going to hear. And it's important not to forget no one. Direct people to use all the exits, of course, with signs and with your helpers. Here's some Go Kit binder that you can download from the link below, and I would suggest to just fill it with the information you need, and just put it in the place you know that you can reach if something happens, or take it with you, and it will help you to remember things that might be forgotten. So security planning for schools. Here's an example of some of the things you should think when you're planning security for school. So each classroom has inner door locks. Each classroom has an emergency kit. It's very important to react fast. The school have 4 safety drills each year. So I would suggest to do more. Each time some of the staff or someone changed, new people starting to work, do a drill, you need everyone to know what to do. There's a permanent guard on the building. It's important to have a permanent guard, not someone that's switching every day, because the guard needs to know the procedures, the guards needs to know the people. It will help you to keep your school safer. Each main floor windows have been fitted with safety film. Usually it's against glass that can break and harm people. Access in the building is restricted to being buzzed, so nobody can get in just without reason. So usually the guard will open the doors. There are first aid kits we already spoke about. The school have trained nurse and staff. It can help you in emergency. There is a dedicated school cell phone. The schools use walkie-talkie for communications with the guards, with the managers, and with the rest of the people. Here's some a link from some very good resource for a book that can help you to develop some emergency protocols for your school. I would suggest to take a look on this one. And for the final, I will speak a little bit about recommendations. What do you ask security company when you interview them? So of course, ask about reference. You want to know the security company already working, they know what they're doing. Benefits to the guards. I think it's an important question. Most of the guards doesn't get a lot of money, and you want to make sure that the guard you have in your place, it's a serious guard, it's taking security as a professional and not just a temporary job. And from my experience, the difference between paying a guard $12 an hour and paying a guard $15 an hour, it's a very big difference. And you can see it on a guard that really want to do and succeed and be good in what he's doing. And this is what you want in your facility, especially in school and synagogue. How much liability of insurance? How do you stay up on the technology? What the methods do you use to train your guards? Training, very important. The training for guards in Canada, it's 40 hours mandatory course and a CPR course, and that's it. You don't need to renew it. You don't need to do it again. Just do it once, and you're paying every year to renew it, but you're not doing the course anymore. So I would suggest to ask about other courses that guards do, like use of force, about terror awareness, something that more connect to the Jewish community, that to understand that the guard will know more than expected. Of course, license, CPR, and what equipment. Some of the guards have batons and hang-ups, so it can help you if something will happen on your, and it looks better to deter potential attackers. Now Adina will tell you about the reference and the resource a little bit.
Sure. So as we were planning this presentation, we came across a lot of really good resources and references. There's only so much we can cover on such a huge subject as security in an hour and a half presentation. So these are some resources that you might want to take a look at online, and all of them are free to further plan for security planning for your facility. The Chesed Fund, not very little known outside of the US, but it's an excellent website. They've got about 9-10 books, free books, for different situations in Jewish life. Everything from planning security for a community candle lighting or a menorah lighting, to Pesach program safety, a book about keeping your camp safe, a book about keeping your shul safe. They've got a book for yeshivas and seminaries. They've even got a book for bris and chatuna wedding planning, a Yom Kippur book. So amazing resource. I would definitely recommend everyone hop on that site. Another great resource, US-based resource, is the Secure Community Network. They've actually got a full online training center with courses you can take and a lot of information from the US Homeland Security Department. And these are just some other links that you could take a look at. The Jewish Community Relations Council of New York is also very active in putting together security and emergency info. On the Canadian side of the border, we've got the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs, and I know there's a representative in our audience today here from the CIGA. They're probably the most prominent on our side in collecting security information, and I know they also help with organizations with security assessments as well. And these are just some more guides for you to take a look at. From what we saw in our research, typically on the US side, communities are just a few steps ahead of Canada in just becoming more aware about security and getting more proactive in putting together webinars like this one and security resources. So you'll want to look through these and see what you can take for your own security planning.
Thank you.
And sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much, Max. You gave some excellent and practical security advice on risk prevention, and I really liked your thoughts on the schools. I just want to talk about a story and kind of one of the main reasons why we thought about, or I thought about bringing this to the attention of the community. You know, back we were just after the Paris situation, and then there was a situation that occurred in LA where there was what the LA called police found to be a formidable ISIS threat. Was they ended up shutting down 1,100 schools across the LA area. You know, and when that hit home, I mean, you know, with my kids at school and all my friends and families' kids at schools, you know, it really hit home that if they were going to go through the time to shut down 1,100 schools and physically search every one of them, that's pretty close. I mean, that's a pretty serious situation that really gave me a scare. And you know, a lot of your comments on the schools, I think, is going to be well received. So now that we've gone through that, we have some time for a few questions from Max.
Sure. So we actually had a few questions earlier related to schools. Let me see if I can scroll down and find them. Esther had a question about, are there any resources available to run a security drill specifically for a camp? So, how would you suggest running a drill for a camp?
So I would suggest to take all the guards that involved and all the people that are involved in this camp and train them together, explain them together to think what will be your threats, what is the weakest points of your facility, and just to train all the guards and do drills with, if so and so happened, what will we do, and training. This is the key word, and that's it.
And Debbie had a good question. We rent space in a building that does not belong to us. How do we talk to the landlord about increasing our security without scaring them or having them want us to move out?
Very good question, Debbie. I think everyone asking this question. I wouldn't try to. I just come and tell straightforward. Listen, we want to just make the place more secure. We're dealing with kids, and I believe that she will understand. I don't think it's going to be a problem. From my experience, usually when we just come approach the people, tell them the truth, of course not to scare them, usually it works.
And it's also in their best interest to
why not
safeguard their facility.
Okay. Well, thanks, Max. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, son.
Nir and Max are kind of tough. Are tough acts to follow, and we're going now from commandos back to the insurance guys. I'm sure you're all excited. I want to welcome a guest now from our Canadian head office here in Toronto. I'd like you to meet Vish Kundi. He's our Chief Sales and Marketing Officer. I talk to my clients every day, Vish, and I hear the same questions come up. So I thought I'd bring Vish in to answer a bunch of the commonly asked questions that come out.
Thanks, Sam. I'm thrilled to be here today.
Vish, a lot of the organizations, due to the financial restraints of what's going on in the marketplace and things like that, they ask about funding and what type of funding is out there to help Jewish organizations with the cost of upgrading their security.
No, absolutely. The cost of putting security equipment in place today is very expensive. And I was just looking at the chat and I saw a number of non-for-profits asking that exact question, which is what funding is available. We've identified a federal program called Communities at Risk that can help defray some of those types of costs. And you should be able to see the URL on the slide. Funding is available to eligible non-for-profit organizations linked to a community that's really at risk of being victimized by a hate-motivated crime. The types of equipment you can see on the slide that you can claim for is listed there, and also there's a fuller list on the website. But it includes some of the stuff that Nir has been talking about in maps, like alarm systems, fences, gates, lighting, and exterior cameras. In terms of how much you can get up to 50% of the costs covered up to $100,000. And we know synagogues in London, Ontario, and Hamilton that have successfully received grants. So I would urge everybody to look at that website and see whether they're eligible for some of those grants.
Excellent, thanks, Vish. Also, so I'm out there selling the insurance to the people, and what has Gallagher done on the national level? What have they done as far as insurance purposes that they can offer Jewish organizations across Canada in terms of insurance product?
Great question. We've put arrangements in place with specialty underwriters that have significant experience and specialized wordings, Sam, in dealing with and catering to Jewish organizations, including synagogues, schools, community centers, and really everybody on the call today. On top of that, we're working with Paul and Justin in London to bring true and live crisis management techniques to Jewish organizations and faith groups in Canada. And you'll be hearing more about their services on their section in this webinar.
Thanks, Vish.
Okay.
That's a perfect segue to the introduction of Paul Bassett and Justin Priestley's presentation. Paul and Justin are both former British military officers, and if you've ever thought your job was tough, these guys worked on the bomb squad before getting into the insurance industry, which is very similar to the insurance industry. Let's connect now with Paul and Justin now on Skype.
Which is very similar to the insurance.
Hello, Paul.
Let's connect now with Paul and Justin now on Skype.
Hi,
Hey, Paul.
Can you hear us?
Hey, Dina, I can hear you loud and clear. Paul here. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, we can.
How's the weather in London, Paul?
We have a nice sunny day. Thank you very much, Sam. Thank you for the introduction there.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So we'd like to spend just a few minutes now taking you through some of the crisis management techniques that we've brought together from our experience, not only drawn from the insurance industry, but as Sam and Vish referred to, both Justin and I were bomb disposal in the British Army for 10 years prior to joining the insurance industry some 20 years ago. We both got involved in the '94 London Israeli Embassy attack and the subsequent attack on Balfour House. And I was a counter-terrorist search instructor helping train, amongst others, some of the Israeli forces, Israeli Defense Forces, in specialist high-risk search techniques and improvised explosive device disposal. So we've had some hands-on experience with counter-terrorism operations worldwide, a bit similar to Max and Nir, and some experience with some targeting of Israeli assets in the UK. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go to our next slide now, and we're going to take you through some of our approach to how we deal with the terrorism risk from an insurance, risk management, and risk transfer perspective. I'm going to hand to Justin, if Dean will flick to the next slide, and we'll talk through our approach, and then we'll take you through some of the solutions we've got in just a few minutes. Justin.
Thank you, Paul. We've heard an awful lot about the threat and risk to various organisations, whether they be synagogues or schools. And we've also heard a lot about the ways in which you can mitigate these risks by physical security, CCTV, alarms, etc. What you see on the slide is our unique approach at Arthur J. Gallagher to take clients through the circle of understanding the risk, and then taking that understanding into the insurance market. And I see from the questions that have come through, there's been an awful lot of conversation and questions around how potentially you can afford to put some risk mitigation measures in place, and in fact how you can prepare for evacuating schools and looking at how you're going to deal with the crisis. A lot of the markets that we deal with actually recognize the way in which clients are understanding the risk and furthermore mitigating that risk, and funds can be available from the insurance market to help you do some of that activity. So going from the broking through preparation and preparedness, that's all around the risk mitigation that we've already heard, establishing crisis management plans, so who is going to make the decisions to evacuate the building, what are the crisis communications going to look like, and effectively then linking back into business continuity, so getting the business or the school or the synagogue back into operation. And the final part is obviously, dealing with the claims that potentially come out of that and potential investigations. So if we go on to the next slide, we can actually look at a terrorism model that we've designed and developed, again at Arthur J. Gallagher, looking at the potential new threats. We've heard an awful lot about vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices. We've heard about suicide devices. And effectively what this model will enable us to do is to bring clients, single assets or global assets, into the model, and then effectively look at where they're located, look at some of the security that's been put in place and some of the risk mitigation measures that are there, look at the proximity to potential targets, because in many cases you might not be the intended target. There may well be a more attractive target nearby that potentially will be actually targeted by terrorist organizations. And effectively what we can do is we can then look at running some scenarios, like for instance a suicide bomber, and looking at how effective your security is, looking at how effective your risk mitigation is, and then looking at what the potential impact will be, whether that be physical damage or the fact that you're actually evacuated out of that building.
Jason.
If we now move on to the next slide, what you will see there is you will see that for complex risks, we can actually bring all of that together by looking at the threat and risk and vulnerability to synagogues or schools. We can do the terrorism modeling. We can look at plans and procedures and look at effectively coming down and seeing how you would respond to all of these. From a broking perspective, that enables us to have a more detailed conversation with the insurance markets, which will look at providing funds for risk mitigation measures and actually look at risk-based underwriting.
So, Justin, Vish has a few questions for you on how this model really applies for Jewish organizations.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
Justin, what would be the first things someone responsible for security as a synagogue needs to do when they're following that framework that you've just shown?
Yeah, well, the first thing that they need to do is understand the threat to their organization. So understand, looking through the eyes of the terrorist or the perpetrator, how they might be vulnerable. And we've looked and heard an awful lot about how you can potentially do that. And there are a number of tools that are available to terrorist organizations like Google Earth, but also by just observing what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So ensuring that you understand the threat and then putting appropriate risk mitigation measures in place are obviously key to ensuring that you build resilience at your synagogue or school.
Thank you.
What I'd now like to do is hand you over to Paul, who will talk about a new solution we've developed called Crisis Resilience.
So the Crisis Resilience solution that we've developed at Arthur J. Gallagher is the culmination of some 20 years in the insurance industry and our 10-year plus careers in the military. And we've tried to create a solution that meets a wide range of security-related crises, that is cost-effective, but also includes key risk management advice, very similar advice that Max and Nira gave earlier on. So this solution is going to be available in Canada in the next few weeks' time. We're launching in the UK in the next 10 days. And essentially, there are 4 component parts to the solution. We've got the anticipate phase, the prevent phase, the respond phase, and the recover phase. But essentially, what this solution is, it's an insurance product that's indemnified by AIG, and for a cost of approximately $1,000 Canadian dollars a year, what you get is up to $100,000 of response advice in the event of an incident. But you get a lot more than that. We try and give you access immediately to an online platform where you can download crisis management plans and upload the plans that you those templates once you've fulfilled them. We've also got training on there. So both Max and Nir talked about active shooter and the threat and the run, hide, and fight policy. We've got 2 free videos on as part of the solution. One is for active shooter and how to train your organization to deal with the active shooter. And the second one is a broader situational awareness training where we look at understanding what threats you may face in going about your normal business, to or from school, or to and from the synagogue, or business travel, and identifying threats earlier. Nir talked about the little woods on the plane. You're understanding visual distinguishing marks that terrorists or other serious criminals may have about them in terms of how they operate and how they're behaving, and having that situational awareness to either identify and alert authorities to the threat or remove yourself from the threat is very important. So essentially, this product is a product whereby you have 24-hour access to consultants through crisis response call center manned by crisis consultants, not just telephonists. And in the event that you have a security-related crisis, whether it be an act of terrorism, workplace violence, civil commotion, or even an extortion type demand, you can have a consultant sat on your shoulder and deployed to your place of work and give you that advice and help you, guide you through responding to that incident effectively. And finally, if you have actually suffered trauma during the incident, the underwriters will indeed pay up to 5,000 Canadian dollars for post-traumatic stress counselling. So moving on to the last slide, in summary, what we recommend is as a base entry product in the insurance market for $1,000 a year, you can get a crisis resilience platform with training, with key documents. You can get good practice advice that complements the sort of advice that you've heard earlier from our security experts, and you can have access to our crisis consulting people. And this should be the base product to address your duty of care to your people. It's available for Arthur J. Gallagher, and it should be the base product that, should you need insurance products like, say, travel policies or kidnap, ransom, extortion products or terrorism insurance products, this is the starting place to go to help address your duty of care.
I wanted to thank our wonderful speakers again. I also wanted to give my thanks to the Canada Israel Chamber of Commerce and the United Synagogue of Conservative Judaism for inviting their members to this webinar. We'll also be sending out a copy of the presentation of this session within the next week and a post-event survey via email later today. We'd love to get your feedback just on how we did. So, as this is our very first seminar, we really do appreciate your patience. If you do have any questions about your organization's insurance coverage, risk management, or security planning, please feel free to contact me. My contact info is here, and I'd also be happy to put you in touch with any of our speakers that we've had here today.
Guys, I think we're having a sound issue. Sorry, I know about a bunch of you are reporting a sound issue, so you might want to refresh your browser. It was the Skype transition. Go ahead.
Okay. So, okay, well, feel free to contact me. My info is here on the screen. I'd also be happy to put you in touch with any of the speakers that we have here today. For all of us here, I want to thank you for joining us. If you're leaving the webinar, please keep well and stay safe. Chag Sameach to you, your organizations, and your families, and have a healthy and happy Passover. Be well. And now I know we have many members of our audience waiting on the chat with questions. Let's take a few questions for them.
So while we're just transitioning to the Q&A, we're gonna feel free to type in any more questions you have, and we can address them now. And if you can also let us know how your sound quality is, because we just tweaked a few things to fix sound quality. So if you can give me a yes or let me know how the sound is on your end, audience, that would be great. Ready to go? Okay, we're hearing that we're still having some audio issues. Okay, better now? Try to refresh your browser and see. Okay, sounds like we're good. Perfect. We do. So Shelley's asking, how do you know when to lock down versus when to evacuate?
Never can know it's always depends on the situation. Same way that we work with email journalists or so you need to have a professional on site to decide on the different situation. For example, if all the kids are going to school and terrorists will come in the front and the others don't want in the front, because they can only to the straight. But if you have 5 terrorists and nobody and surrounding all your school to do it, lock down and keep everyone inside until somebody comes and help. So basically, it depends on the situation.
Perfect. Are we still getting echoes on your end? We're moving our mic a little closer to the speakers. Okay, sounds like we're having some audio issues. So do you want to maybe hold the mic?
Well, no, it should be able to hear from here.
Okay. Guys, give me a yes if you can hear the speakers. Yeah, people are having some issues seeing you and hearing you. So maybe we can move around this way. Sorry guys, it's a little, we're gonna try to fix the sound for you. Sorry we can't fix the visual just because of our set today, but thank you for your feedback. We've got a question from Jonas. I think this probably relates to the government funding. Most nonprofit organizations have somewhat limited funds. Would investing in technology such as cameras, fob systems be the way to go? Or is an investment in humans like security guards more prudent? Or does the human rental security not scare any potential threats?
So I would suggest to rent a security guard, to hire a security guard, not to rent, because there is no better thing than a human being. All those cameras and everything, it can deter someone. It can show you what happened if something happened, but definitely can't prevent something. A well-trained security guard that knows what he's doing, he can deter and he can save you. And if you're really trained and he knows what he's doing, it will definitely be the better way to go as a security guard and not a camera. Thank you.
Peter's asking, so they do fire drills and they have a lot less lost lives as a result. Should we do security drills as a community? Nir, do you want to take this one?
One thing that you'll maybe have noticed, but it's in the media quite a lot as of the last handful of years is that the government emergency services sectors have all come together, and they start to conduct at least annual major community-oriented drills where they involve all the emergency service sectors and any other sectors, including community-based sectors, to help create realistic scenarios that would replicate exactly what would go on during a real attack in our community. This is crucial. This stems from a realization that the more realistic and the more often you can institute drills, the more prepared you will be. Without the reality of the drills, you'll lack the reality of real life. So 100%, the more resources you can include in on the drills, from your entire community to the emergency services in your area, to other facilities, other businesses, other schools, the more prepared you will be. Highly recommended.
Okay, well, it's 2:30 now, and we promised everybody a webinar that'll be done at 2:30. So again, we want to thank you again to everybody for coming on. Whatever questions that that Adina sees on the screen, she'll forward on to the appropriate person on this panel, and we'll get those answers back to those people. But we want to thank you again for your time, and hope that everybody got something beneficial